Cienega, and it's on
Oh, I thought that you sent that picture from Santa Monica.
No, it's very pretty. It's got the colors of the rainbow.
That's right here?
Yeah, yeah. Oh, it's totally within walking distance. You could make it there at Shabbat. You could make some new friends.
Oh, lovely. See, the problem with the gay synagogue.
Yeah.
The problem with it is
is
that they say that being gay is okay, and God overlooks that, and blah 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 blah. You know, and it's just they've reformulated Judaism into something that's not. They say there's 612 mitzvahs, and they totally take that thing where it says, you know, this is an abomination to do that particular act, and they just, you know, edit it out of their Torah. And said, no, God was just kind of like, you know, joking when he said that. No, he loved, you know what I mean? And so it's like they don't take any responsibility. It's the same problem. If you have if someone has, so I have respect for the guy who says, listen, you know, I can't overcome my attraction for the same sex. So let's say the difference, like let's say like we were saying the example of you with a shiksa, right? Because you have certain desires for a female. But let's say you had certain desires for a male. Well, okay, just wait a second. Right, and you couldn't help it, and you went out and did it. But if you said, you know, it's wrong, the Torah doesn't allow it, but I can't help it, and I gotta have it, right? I gotta have it, right? So I would say, you know, I can respect that guy because, you know, he's honest. He says, you know, you're not allowed to do it, but I do it anyways. Or he says, you're not allowed to do it, and I really want to do it, but I'm trying to be a good Eved Hashem. I'm trying to be a good servant of God, so I'm trying to resist doing it. Right? I have no problem. That is all the kosher derech. That is the way of Judaism. What's not the way, what's heretical and evil is when the leaders of the synagogue say, oh, it's totally okay to do that. Torah allows for it. Judaism is okay with, you know, with all. There's nothing wrong. It's fine to go ahead and, you know, strip some guy in the behind, right? Then the guy doesn't feel guilty. It's like, I'm doing a mitzvah. It's great already, right? Then he doesn't feel guilty. There's nothing wrong with it, and then he tells you that there's something wrong with you for saying that there's something wrong with it, and that is heretical, and that is a problem, and I have a major problem.
What do you do when you find your SSA levels are getting out of control?
What's SSA?
Same-sex attraction.
It's not happening.
Go for a jog.
It's not happened. You could ask me, what is it when my attraction for, what was the other one? For the opposite. You know, for the opposite.
Oh, what do you do when your attraction for the opposite sex is getting out of control?
That's, you know, that's when I go to LukeFord.com.
What do you do when your desire to pray with black Christians just...
Oh, you asked me this question last year.
I don't think you can ever ask it too often.
You asked me this.
You're just dying to daven with black Christians.
This was like our first show last year. It was like, this is how you handle it. You go, okay, what do you think about this week's parsha? Okay, let me ask you another question. What do you think about the guy who killed Yitzhak Rabin? Mitzvah? And I was like, what? And then you go, have you ever had the desire to pray with black Christians? It was like your third question. It was like right at the top, and I was like, what? There's never been a day in my life where I feel like going to a church and praying with black Christians. That just doesn't happen. I just want to say, hey,
you're a stronger man than me.
Yeah, I know, it's way up high. I just want to say, hey to Brandon and Hector. Somebody didn't wish me a happy birthday, and I'm just leaving it at that. Okay.
It's a good thing that you don't like take note or like, oh, so and so didn't wish me a happy birthday, or there are 6 people who haven't wished me a happy 50th birthday yet. It's like you're just so cool with life and with Hashem. You don't take note of who wishes you a happy birthday or not, because
I wouldn't care.
You're just on such a high madriga.
Right. Well, you know, like the 6 people were like stood out in my mind because there's 6 people who I would expect them to. I just, you know, and one of these people is in the chat room right now. Okay, so.
So how do you decide where you will eat or not? So
what?
Where you'll eat, which kind
Oh,
of
I'm sorry. We circled around. We never got to the point. I was telling you this last week. I'm not, you know, I don't local politics. You know, I was in koshers for 5 years or 8 years altogether. I was, you know, 8 years I was in koshers. And there's a lot of politics in it. And I, when it comes to restaurants, that's where the local politics is, right? With the local mafias. To me, I don't go so much by whose hashgacha it is, right? I go by what's the story in the restaurant, and I look at it from the standpoint of a mashgiach, because I was a supervisor. So I come in as like the I look at it as I walked into a restaurant and it's got no hashgacha, and I size up the place. What is going on here? If they're serving meat, is there what's called a mishgiach tamidi? A mishgiach tamidi is a full-time supervisor, somebody who's in the kitchen, who's not paid. He's not part of the restaurant staff. Okay, somebody who's paid by some outside certification organization. Are you following? Mm-hmm. And his sole purpose is to sit there and watch the meat, to make sure that the meat that you're eating is that which arrived with from like Rabashkin. Mm-hmm. And that's good because there needs to be what's called a teveus ayin. Do you know what that is? Mm-hmm. It's the watching eye. Right. Okay, because meat we have to know once it's unwrapped that it's kosher. And you can't tell between kosher and non-kosher meat once it's unwrapped. Once it has no seals on it anymore, mm-hmm. How do you know it's kosher? Mm-hmm. So Torah says it should have what's called a teveus ayin, because it shouldn't be what's called basar shenasalam min ha'ayin, that meat that's hidden from a person's eye. Once you lose, if I say, hey Levi, look at this meat, and I put it behind my back, and I come back with a hand and it's got meat in it, do you know it's the same meat? Do you know it's the same meat?
You played that game with me after the restaurant. You said, Levi, look at the meat. Oh, I'm putting it back.
Okay, Levi. So
find the kosher salami, Levi.
Yeah, we played hide the burrito. So what am I saying? That you should have basar meat that's not hidden from the eye. You should be able to see it at all times. Okay, so you need someone in there who keeps kosher, who's not doesn't have a conflict of interest, doesn't work for the management, and they're able to look and see the meat all the time, and so that it's called the teveus ayin. Now, if they're not in the restaurant when I walk in, I want to know where they are. I want to see how quickly they return, because there's a leniency called yotzi v'nichnas, that you go out and then you come back in, mm-hmm. And it says if everything is neutral, right, and a person leaves, they can leave and come back because you don't know when they're coming back. So if let's say you're the owner and you want to play a shady game and start bringing in the treif meat, and there was a guy right there standing there, you're not going to do it. Now if he left and he's not coming back, you might do it then. But if he left and you don't know, maybe he's going to walk back in 12 seconds. Mm-hmm. You're not going to take the chance of start screwing around because he's going to walk in and catch you with the goods. Right. So the Torah says yotzi v'nichnas. If a person, if the mashgiach leaves and he comes back, that's okay. If most of the time he's staying in the place, but then he takes a little break and he comes back, that can be okay. The scary part is some people have taken that heter and stand it on its head, and you see that what they'll do is the mashgiach will drop by once a day for 10 minutes, and the theory is nobody knows when he's showing up, so therefore it's a problem. That theory is okay, in my opinion, when we're not dealing with meat. That's how the OU and other big hashgachas deal with something that you eat, potato chips. Mm-hmm. Something that doesn't have meat in it, you don't have that problem. You can come in once every 30 days, you take a look, nobody, you know what I mean? Things don't change that often anyways at a big potato chip place. Okay? But at a little mom and pop meat place on Pico, are you kidding me? That's not good enough. So if I walk in, I don't see any mashgiach tamidi, and I never see mashgiach tamidi in there, I'm not going to go in there. I don't care, unless there's one thing that might save my butt. If the people behind the counter that own the place and operate the place are mamish, very Yerushalayim type people. Mm-hmm. If they are, and that's a judgment call. You know what I mean?
And that means fear of God.
If they have a tremendous fear of God, right? Mm-hmm. If I walked in and the Chafetz Chaim, mm-hmm. Rabbi Victor Miller was behind the thing, I'm going to go, I don't see a mashgiach tamidi, I'm leaving, I'm going to be like an idiot, right? If he was behind the counter, if it's somebody with a tremendous Yerushalayim